Welcome, Terrilynn, Traveling Artista. This is Color Theory Basics number 3, and I will be dealing with a couple approaches to split complements. Here is the reference photo. I've changed it to black and white to simplify it. And the two color schemes I have chosen are this blue-green with the orange and red split complements, and along with the pastels that go with those. The second color scheme is purple with a yellow green and a yellow orange. And here are the pastels I've chosen with those, the tints and the shades and the hues. All right, let's jump into some painting, and we're going to start with that first split complement theme that we had already picked out, or I had already picked out. I'm including you in this. Anyway, here we go. We have the basic color of a blue-green. That's going to be kind of our primary color. And the split complements from that are the orange and the red. Also remember to consider not only those basic hues, orange and red, and the blue-green, but also the shades and the tints of those. So pick out the colors as I had shown you before. Now, I hope you've taken the time to actually get your pastels out and have a quick photograph. I've taken this quick photograph I showed you before. I turned it into black and white to keep it simplified. That helps you in your choosing. So now all we have to pay attention to is the tones as we move ahead. So let's jump into this one. Okay. I did a basic sketch underneath with a dark charcoal that you can't really see here, and I've started just throwing in some color. Now, this first painting I realized after I had finished it, I went intuitively with it. I hadn't planned it as well as I had hoped, and the tones were not followed all the way. I was kind of looking at the photograph instead of really thinking about where I was going. At this point, you can see I'm working in the negative shapes and also trying to balance the sky with the foreground. Also keeping in mind the sky holes that some people call it around the trees. I already have the main hue of that blue-green, and I'm adding in some tints and shades of each. Now I have skipped over to the orange and a deep shade of that. Remember, tints are the lighter colors when you add the hue and white, and a shade is when you take that basic hue and add black into it. Moving along, always trying to keep the colors balanced throughout the painting. Now this is small, it's just a sketch and a study, but this is a great thing to do before you jump into one of those super complicated larger paintings. I am keeping the reference photo right beside me, looking at it once in a while. It is not vital at this point. What is most important than this painting is the feeling and the emotion of it. I'm also keeping my split complement color wheel beside me. I have blocked out the other colors so they're not very distracting. All I did was trace the areas that I wanted and then cut them out of the paper. One aspect you can notice in the far left of this painting, I think, is that some areas, to gray them down, remember you can take the complements and overlap them. By blending them, it grays it down and pushes it back into the background. It's a great exercise to take the complements sometimes and really see how far you can go to get an absolute gray out of the basic complements. Again, this is a split complement, not the direct opposite complement on the color wheel. Oftentimes this adds more interest to your painting. I hope you're keeping in mind as you kind of follow along. This is entertaining, but do go back. You can always pause the video and try these things along with me. Go back, check out that color scheme, pause the video, pick out the colors, Try to match them to the hue, tint, and shades on your color wheel, or right along with what I have chosen. At this point, I was realizing that my tonal values were a little too balanced, and I was trying to push them down deeper, more of a difference as to where I wanted my primary focus. There are so many elements that are included in your primary focus. You have contrast, the light and dark. You have the most intense colors usually. You also have the most detail in the area that you want as that primary focus. Those are just very simple aspects that you're looking at. Again, things are not always perfect. As I got moving along, I realized, oh no, I haven't really planned this one very well. So I was trying to pull it back up to where I had wanted it. You know, we always hit those points where it's a bit of a struggle, and that's okay. That's the learning process. Stepping back, always remember to step back because you can see the artwork more objectively that way. Another thing to do is go ahead and get your phone out and take a picture of it and look at it that way. Just by making it smaller, sometimes you see it differently. Elements will jump out at you that aren't jumping out at you as you're working on the painting. You can also turn it to black and white with your editing controls, and you can turn it upside down. What we used to do before we had these wonderful camera phones is we used to hold it up in a mirror or something to get a fresh view of it, or turn it upside down. There's so many aspects that you can do. There's so many approaches you can use to look at your painting in a more objective manner. You get working on it and it gets so subjective and you're so involved. Here I am trying to pull out some of those highlights. Now we're going to move on to the other color scheme, the blue-purple with the green and orange. Starting out, getting in those basic colors that I'm looking for. Sorry about that quick overlay over that transitional slide. I'm still learning, but I wanted to get this video out there so that you folks can learn and practice. I'm also still waiting for my microphone. It did arrive, but at the wrong address. And such is life, right? Especially during these times when we are quarantined and we are isolated. It's not as easy just to move it from one place to another. So it has to get shipped. So here I'm in. I've decided to use the yellow-orange in the sky. And then I'm going to use the purple-violet, I believe in the trees is what I was going for. Yes, the trees and some of the dark areas in the foreground. And then that green is going to be hit in the grass. Again, you can overlay these split complements as you can with complementary colors to create more grays. Darker grays, lighter grays, pushing elements back by softening it. Go ahead and lightly use on your sanded textured paper. You can lightly skim over the top of one color with another. And it's wonderful because it doesn't totally mix it like you might with watercolor or oil or acrylic paints. It creates this very subtle juxtaposition of the colors that softens it, neutralizes it, but also intensifies it to the subconscious, We don't always see those details, but they are in there. It's those subtle spices that you get in cooking, and how those complements are just like having just the right wine to go with that dish. You can see this painting's coming along a little faster. I've planned it a little better. I'm a little happier with it. And one aspect that I'm planning to do with this at the end is show you the difference between the two color schemes. They're both split complements, but they have very different colors in them. And by making a choice, you can affect the feeling, the ambiance of your painting. Pretty much done. Here are the two paintings side by side. Same photograph, basically the same approach, but very different feelings between the two. Consider color. It is one of your major tools in a painting. It can make a huge difference which colors you choose. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I want to keep producing more. Please do like, subscribe, and share. Just copy the link and share it with some of your friends who you think might be interested in learning more about art and color theory. Do visit my complete YouTube channel. I also have basic drawing and other aspects. Meanwhile, stay dusty, my friends.